And they wanted to name it that because they were experiencing telepathic.
Right.
They were having these weird experiences where they were sharing moments.
Shared visions.
Yeah.
Well, I think you can share visions just like you can share thoughts. You can, or you share feelings. I think just a little more complex.
The thing about that is, if it's local and there's other communication, right? If you're both in the same room, and like your friend says, "Not the pyramid," like, "Oh, so I see the pyramid now," you know?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or if you guys are nowhere near each other, you can't hear each other, can't, and then you independently write down what you experienced, and then that person says and they have the exact same thing. So they have no interaction with you before they write down what they experienced or recorded or what have you, but they're the same. They're having the same thing.
Yeah. Do you know of Rupert Sheldrake's work?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had Rupert on.
You have? Okay,
Yeah.
great. Yeah. So he's spoken to you about his
Morphic resonance.
His morphic resonance and these large scale experiments with a lot of people from the public. They see they will make cold calls and people are expecting them. The dog knows it's going to come. The owner is going to come home much sooner or at a different time than normal, and they can sense it and they're ready.
Yeah.
So there is, like awareness at a distance, seems to be. But I think it also must occur between people or things which have already got a strong relationship.
Yeah. Like rats, when they teach them how to do a maze on the East Coast, they figure out how to do it quicker on the West Coast. You've seen those, right?
Yeah, and crystal formation. I was thinking about a dream I had once of my washing machine. I was traveling, and I had a dream about my washing machine that had stopped working, and I called home and I said, "How's the washer?" And she said, "It's broken." And I spoke to Rupert and I said, "Can you explain that?" And he said, "You must have a strong relationship to your washing machine."
Well, you need it.
Yeah.
Kind of makes sense.
I mean, cross species, cross life forms almost, communication. Well, I mean, do you think things would work out if there were a universal language? Or, I mean, would we just, build a Tower of, Babel all over again? Or would we, do something, good, for everyone?
I think we have the potential now because if we can develop a universal language, when you have real communication with people globally that's never existed before, instantaneous, real communication through devices, that's never existed. So that's a different factor when you consider a universal language. So if you have real communication with people, then you have a universal language. And then here's the big one, the ability to detect deception. So if we really are all communicating through some sort of neural implant, and we really are doing this telepathically with a universal language, and we're experiencing each other's consciousness in a way that eliminates all possibility of deception. You can see envy, greed, anger. You can see these things in people's thoughts. If this becomes a possibility, and I think it's within the realm of science. I think it's within the realm of technological possibility. When that does happen, it will mean a very different thing to be a human being. And I think it could be one of the greatest things that's ever happened, because it would force us to only communicate at a higher level. There would be no benefit in bullshitting anymore. It would be the opposite. It would actually be detrimental. You would be ostracized. No one would want to communicate with you anymore.
Well, you'd be speaking the truth all the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
There'd be no more lying.
No more lying. Impossible to lie, which I think is fascinating.
I don't think that would work.
Why not?
Well, I mean, there are some lies that are told for the sake of peace.
Right, but what are the parameters? Like, what are the confines of our society and of our just geopolitically, in terms of environments we exist in? Like, why? What lies would be good for peace? They wouldn't be better if everybody just knew exactly what was going on.
Well, if everybody knew exactly what was going on, that would be something different. But I think, in the meantime, there are some some benefits to white lies.
Sure, as a human being,
Right.
with a limited ability to communicate, and you don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. Sure, yeah, but if you're not a human being anymore, essentially, you're a cyborg, and you're
right.
connected through a neural link to the whole world. There's going to be zero benefit in lying.
Right. Well, you're suggesting a new species of man.
I am suggesting a new species of man.
Yeah. One of my favorite books is called First and Last Men. It's by Olaf Stapledon. He's a British science fiction writer from the 1930s, 1940s. And he describes 19 species of man that extends over 2 billion years. And the final species is living on one of the outer planets. They live 35,000 years because that's how long it takes to learn everything. And every so often they all communicate telepathically around the whole globe. And it's like this big event, obviously. It happens every, 20,000 years.
Whoa.
Yeah, and they work up to it. Yeah, it's an inspiring book, actually. It's one of my favorite.
You know what? Another more controversial thought that I have about all this stuff is that ultimately the big bottleneck with information is going to be money, because money right now is just ones and zeros, right? Money is just information. It's just we agree that you have X amount of dollars here,
right.
and you have. And we agree.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a gold standard anymore, so it's not backed by anything. It's just a weird thing. So that's information. The trend with technology is we have more and more access to information, and ultimately we're going to have instantaneous access to information. But then we have this money thing. We have money, which is and as people get better and better at cracking encoding. Like you're not going to have encrypted money. You're not going to have encrypted info. It's not going to be possible, especially when quantum computing becomes ubiquitous. Like we're all operating off. It's all done. And if this happens at the same time when we're all sharing our thoughts, impossible to lie, and then universal language and money. So then you have an even distribution of resources that's not based at all on capitalism. It's an abandonment of capitalism. But not in like a Marxist communist way, in sort of a practical utilitarian way to deal with the fact that everybody's communicating with everybody instantaneously. You can't have a guy who lives in a fucking castle and another guy who lives in a favela with a dirt floor and no food if we're all existing as one.
Well, it would require a change in human nature.
Yeah, well, human nature won't be human nature once this happens. Whatever you think of human nature is of now. It's like, you can tell me something. I don't know if you're telling me the truth. I can kind of guess. I have a feeling, but I don't know. So that makes progress slow.
Well, do you think that that the technology will change human nature?
Of course.
Or
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But just by design, if you're communicating telepathically and you can instantaneously detect it, it makes deception impossible, right? Because you're only able to express your thoughts.
Yeah, I have a feeling that won't be very popular.
Well, it won't be popular with the kind of humans that exist today.
Right. So will the human nature have to change first before there's an agreement to undertake that?
Well, I think it'll change with it. But one of the good things is we might be able to completely eliminate things like depression, suicidal thoughts, all mental illnesses. Maybe we could recognize that these are simply patterns in the way this thing operates. And if you just optimize it, it no longer has these patterns. If everybody has this increased level of dopamine.
For example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like everybody, just increase dopamine 300%.
Well, and increase oxytocin.
Yes.
So
everybody loves everybody.
Everybody loves everybody.
We're walking around in a state of tripping. We're all in ecstasy together. Just a low level where you're functional. You're not going to crash your car.
Right.
But you probably won't have cars anymore anyway. They'll be driving you around.
Well, an interesting thought is maybe you can increase levels of endogenous DMT in everyone genetically.
Sure, or on cue, like whenever you'd want it.
Yeah, I think the rapture may have a biological basis in that regard. Like it's a timed event
Right.
which is worldwide, that turns on the DMT synthesizing machinery, and everybody just
Connects all the minds together
yeah,
in a
and,
universal language.
and it's one big blowout.
And we emerge from our violent monkey past and become the next version of what it means to be a human being.
Well, which would be non-material. The DMT world is non-material.
Right.
It's visual. So we might just transcend into some, like I think everybody, in this kind of scenario, everybody would drop dead.
But isn't it more than visual? It's visual in the sense that you experience it with your eyes, but your brain is experiencing something too. You just don't know what to do with it. You don't know where it goes. So you say it's visual. I'm seeing it. But you're not just seeing it. You're experiencing it.
Well, I think it's the world made of light. I think that's the way, and we perceive light through the eyes. It's visually, experienced, perceived.
Right, but whenever you're having a visual with your eyes closed, it's tough to call it a visual. I mean, obviously, it's interacting with that part of your brain.
Right. Well, you call it that after the fact.
It's
after you come down, when you're drinking
right.
your